and this is from the question I asked in the community page from Wow, It's Crazy in There is the name. So this person asked, you knew the facts, or you know / knew the facts. What's holding you back from leaving, or what took you so long to realize? So that's a good question that I'm curious how both of you would answer. Again, as quickly as possible, but I would assume both of you probably had a moment where you realized there were some things that did not make sense, and yet you continue to stay in for a time. And so what for you, maybe we'll start with you, Edgar. What was it? What was the thing that held you back from leaving initially?
What held me back was, partly was myself, because I thought that it was the perfect truth, and the reason why I say that it was me is because even though I saw so many red flags, when you're so deep in, you're not looking at them as red flags. So I just, would brush them or put them in the back burner. But what ultimately did it for me, what was the camel that, the straw that broke the camel's back, was when, I was alone, I was, in the hospital, and I didn't have any peace. And I was like, this is crazy, because besides what, everyone says, until you're going through something, that's when you really need God the most. And that's when all the stuff that, when these kind of groups where you do the things to justify yourself, that's the moment you should feel the most peace. Well, it was the opposite for me. It was a time when I felt no peace. And, even though I was, confessing Father and Mother's name and thinking of all the things that I had done and thinking about the power that it was in them, and nothing, it was the peace that did it for me. And then after that, even asking the leadership questions and trying to see if they could answer them for me, and they couldn't. And then start studying for myself. I start rereading the Bible, with an open mind, and those are ultimately the things that made me leave. But it wasn't easy, and so the patience is key.
Yeah. So Kelsey, for you, when you started to see things that were problematic about the group, but did you ever have a time where there were still some things that were just holding you from fully disconnecting?
Yeah, for me it was fear, because I even when I left, I still believed the doctrine. So the fear came like if I didn't keep Sabbath day, or if I didn't keep Passover, I'm gonna go to hell. But by that time, I was so burned out that I didn't care if I went to hell, because living in living in the World Mission Society Church of God was hell on its own, in my opinion, when I was, from my experience. So that, I mentally checked out well before I physically checked out. And, so yeah, that's ultimately, it was just like the overseer was leaving. I didn't like the overseer at that time. And so I was like, you know what? He's out, I'm out. And so, I just never came back. And then when I left, I had to have some kind of justification for leaving. So that's when I went and I did a little research on the church, wrote down a bunch of questions, and then eventually sat down with one of the leaders, the female adult leader, and presented all my questions. I knew the answers to those questions because, those aren't the first time, like people have told me those same questions before, but I prepared one answer ahead. So, or one more question ahead, so that I knew that it would stump them. So for example, like, when was, where's the proof that Ahnsahnghong was baptized in 1948? Like something like that. And so that pushed me enough to leave. And I'm such an indecisive person, like completely indecisive. I never want to make life decisions on my own. Like you guys have no idea, but this is like the one thing that I did that I never questioned. Like I left and I never thought, oh, should I have left or should I go back? Like 100%, even though the people in there, most of the people like were really nice. And I still care about them greatly, but I never thought about going back. So, but the fear kept me in. the fear of going to hell kept me in until it, fear can only last so long until you kind of over it.
Until the fear kept you in until you realized you were so miserable that what you were fearing I was
already going through
the lesser of the lesser evil of the two staying in. So yeah.